Expect nothing and you'll be happy with anything. But that's impossible. You can't expect nothing unless you expect actual nothing, which is the absence of things. Also, be happy? What is happiness? Is it that thing people do with their faces? Really though, how do we know what happiness is? Maybe happiness just means you're not suffering at the moment. Maybe it's having no problems to speak of. But then again, I've seen plenty of people with mountains of problems who still manage to smile. If the poor can be happy and the rich can be miserable, then it's not about problems, is it? Maybe it's about believing that you can handle whatever problems you have, that you are equipped to face what's coming, that whatever challenge is waiting for you, you can overcome. But even that feels like a tiny slice of the whole truth, doesn't it? Happiness isn't one thing, it's a compound feeling, like love. Love isn't just attraction, or lust, or understanding. It's all these things coming together to create something bigger. A house isn't just a pile of bricks, is it? It's easier for us to define happiness by its absence. We tend to know the things we don't want far more clearly than we know what we do want. But that's normal. Human beings are like that. Dare I say we are intimate with negativity even. That's why the English language, among many others, has almost twice as many words to describe negative emotions as it does positive ones, which is how I'm able to describe what I feel and you can relate to it. And I feel unhappy. It's not even that I'm miserable, it's more like I'm just not moved by anything. Life is happening and I'm standing here watching it pass me by, numb, unengaged, and dead inside. What's interesting about that is, a part of it feels like I've been betrayed, as if the things I want for myself keep slipping through my fingers, proven impossible again and again and again. There's a rift between me and my desires with no way across, yet somehow, some part of me still expects to cross over. How absurd is that? But I guess that's understandable when I can see others who have the things that I want. I can't help but wonder, how did they make it across? Why them? Why not me? It feels like a slap in the face. They show me that it's possible, but they don't tell me how it's done. And that's not fair. Especially when I try so damn hard. Would you look at that? Another expectation. If I try hard, I'll succeed. And fairness? In a world of animals preying on each other? What a sick joke. You can try all you want to hammer a nail with a sponge. See how far that gets you. Maybe some people are just born with hammers. Maybe it's a game of luck where skill barely matters. And if your brain works anything like mine, and honestly it probably does, we're all human. This is the point where the mind spirals into depression and resentment. We feel cheated, like reality broke a deal it never actually made. We did everything we were told to do, we kept our side of the bargain, and the reward is nowhere to be found. But hold on a minute. Did anyone actually make us such promises? Did some god descend from the heavens to personally guarantee your happy ending? No, he didn't. We assumed the whole fucking thing. Because of cliches we were fed growing up. Work hard and you'll succeed. Be kind and people will treat you kindly. Be good and good things will happen to you. Fantasies, all of them. They echo in our minds, quietly building narratives for how life should unfold. And when reality refuses to follow our script, we crash. This should have been me. I deserved better. I should be happy by now. And we compare ourselves against others, against imaginary versions of who we think we should have been by now. You know those nights, sitting in your room, alone, scrolling some social media app, seeing people laughing, falling in love, finding success. Yet here you are, still trying to figure out how to get the fuck out of bed without the weight of the world pinning you down. Comparison really is the thief of joy. Yeah, You already know that one. But this video isn't about a mere thief, it's about the real villain of the story: expectations. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that assumptions are inescapable. And because expectations deal with predicting futures, they're inherently built on assumptions. But to be fair, expectations are not always bad. They can actually be pretty useful. Some even talk about expectations like a magical ability that allows you to manifest things into reality. They tell you that you will find in the world exactly what you expect to find. But I wouldn't go that far. I think that's less about expectations and more about belief and attention. I already made a small video on the topic of attention if you're interested. Still, the benefits of expectations are clear. One obvious advantage is motivation. When you expect success, you're much more likely to push harder to reach it. You start to act in ways that facilitate your success. The expectation becomes a kind of fuel, a battery that powers you forward, and that's fucking great. Another less obvious benefit to expectations is comfort. Imagine living in a world where nothing is predictable. No routines or familiar faces. No idea what tomorrow could bring. No present moment extending into the future in a predictable fashion. You sleep in your bed, you wake up on a cliffside. You enter your house and you find it's a sauna with naked people staring at you. Wouldn't you live in constant dread? How could you even begin to plan for a future or dream about one if everything was pure chaos? Uncertainty is a direct threat to survival. Expectations create a sense of certainty, even if it's only an illusion. And that sense is just enough to let us move forward. Enough to convince us that there's ground beneath our feet, even if it is invisible. But unfortunately, this is where the upsides run out. It's pretty much all downhill from here, because the price of expectations can be brutal. A wise man once said that only the unloved hate, and I think that's true. Resentment, the real corrosive kind, doesn't come from nowhere. It's born from wanting something you couldn't have. It's the bitterness of believing you deserve something and watching the world refuse to hand it over. We resent the world for placing limits on us. We resent the people who remind us of what we lack. We even resent ourselves for not being able to change reality. But what is resentment really? It's rejection mixed with powerlessness. It's saying, this reality isn't giving me what I want, so I hate it. I reject it. I reject myself for being stuck in it. If only the circumstances were different. If I were richer, luckier, more attractive, then I too would be able to get what I want. This is what really goes on inside your head whenever you feel resentment. And even then, that's still not the true face of the ugly feeling. If you investigate deeper, resentment is rejection, rejection is disbelief, and disbelief comes from your self-concept. You conceive of yourself as someone capable, as someone worthy and good, therefore you naturally believe that you are deserving. That is the script you have written for yourself. Yet your life dares to disagree with it? It makes perfect sense to reject such a life. This is just a narrow scope of what happens when expectations go unmet. Dressed up as promises, it's no wonder they feel like the loss of something that was meant to be yours. But it doesn't have to be this way. The suffering that comes from this is entirely self-inflicted, which fortunately for us means that it can be avoided. I'll get to how that works by the end, but first, I appreciate you watching thus far. If you're enjoying the content, please do me a favor by liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already. That lets YouTube know that my channel exists. So it's awful to have your expectations unmet, and that is due to something called the expectation gap, a misalignment between what you believe should happen and what actually ends up being. When the gap is wider than our ability to bridge it, we fill it up with negative emotion. resentment, frustration, distrust, directed not only toward others, but also toward ourselves. Digging our heels in the ground, feeling entitled to an outcome that had no real way to materialize. It makes sense though. When you fail, you logically don't succeed. But what happens when you do succeed and it still counts as a failure? I assume you're either puzzled by the question or you completely relate. I'm talking about perfectionism. The perfectionist mindset is when expectations stop being mere hopes or guidelines. They become stiff requirements, and anything short of that is a disappointment, an incomplete pile of garbage. But it's actually worse than that, because perfection is oftentimes just a vague image of completeness with no definitive edges. So no matter how good things turn out, they may never touch perfection. As you inch closer to bridge that expectation gap, the perfect image evolves and changes, making the gap wider than before. No matter how great your results end up being, it always tells you there was a better outcome. You could have saved time, it could have been cleaner, you could have planned better, done this and that, and oh my god, look at all these details you missed. It's never fucking enough. Perfectionism keeps moving the finish line, so even when you win, you still lose. At this point, it sounds like expectations are more trouble than they're worth. I agree. But they are impossible to eliminate entirely, especially when most of them are subconsciously held. Even just having them will change your relationship with the present moment. The present becomes a means to an end, with you measuring, judging, and comparing it against the future to make sure it will still lead you there. So focused on what should happen next that you might entirely miss what's happening now. We only exist in the present when we let life be what it is, without constraints, without rigid roles that we expect ourselves and others to play, not afraid of deviating from the script. That is freedom. That's when we feel alive. So how does one temper their expectations? Simple. First is understanding the nature of expectations. Expectations are meant to be predictions. They are guesses about what could happen, not demands about what should. It's like assigning a probability or just forming a hypothesis. Based on what I've seen, this is likely to happen. This is less likely to happen. But notice, every expectation is built on assumptions. If I let go of this ball, what do you think will happen? Is it gonna sprout wings and fly away, or will it fall? If you expected it to fall, then you'd be absolutely incorrect. I'm obviously a skeleton from outer space. Your expectation was based on the assumption that gravity exists, or in this case that I won't edit this shit to float. My point is, there was never any real certainty. This isn't as simple as 1 + 1 always equals 2. Life is too complex for that kind of accuracy. There are too many variables to consider, and you don't have all the information. So have your dreams, go for them, and hope for the best. But remember, your assumptions may not be based on facts. Even if they are, those facts might have changed since the last time you checked. This here will be the difference between denying that something has happened and accepting the fact that it did. If I deny the fact that there is a wall blocking my path, I'll just keep slamming into it, expecting that if I hit it hard enough, eventually I'll break through. And when that doesn't work, I'll tell myself, I tried so hard, I guess I'm just unlucky. That's not effort, that's insanity, like trying to hammer that nail with a sponge. If I just accept that the wall is real, now I have options. I can climb over it, go around it, hell, I can possibly demolish it, just not with my face. Acceptance is what keeps you grounded, and it doesn't mean being okay with shitty circumstances. You just accept the fact that the circumstances are shitty and then find a real way to change them. Believing a wall shouldn't be blocking your path won't make it disappear. Slamming into it harder won't get you through. It'll just leave you bruised and bitter, and possibly with severe brain damage. Acceptance is the opposite of surrender. Now the power is back into your hands, and that should remind you what happiness really is. Not the absence of troubles, not something to be gained in the future. It's the simple act of living right now. Even if the moment isn't perfect, even if the future is still uncertain, you were never missing anything. You were just looking away.